What is up? Welcome back to another video. It's a little bit dark out because it's after 4 p.m. in the Pacific Northwest, so this is just what we're going to deal with now. I did get the white balance correct, so that way I don't look like I'm in a campfire, but it is a little bit dark, so bear with me. We are going to be going over today the results from both a post I made on Threads. Again, you can follow me there if you want. You don't have to, it's fine. And then also a community post I made on this channel. Sometimes that's a thing I do because I like to hear your guys' opinion. And this video, this topic is exclusively about your guys' opinions. And that is, what are you looking for before you buy a film camera? Or something to that effect. So what I did is I took all of the things that was said, I took the words of that, I put them into a word cloud maker. This is what we have. You don't know what a word cloud is or a word bubble. I'm not sure what the difference is or if they're the same thing. The bigger the word is, the more it came up, and the smaller the word is, it was probably only said like one time. But we're just gonna go through it. I'm gonna say what is on the word cloud. I'll give my opinion on it. Hopefully offer you guys some guidance if you're looking to buy film cameras, or if you just wanna hear me talk, that's fine too. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that good stuff. Join the channel as well if you want to support me. I definitely appreciate that. Let's get into this word cloud bubble thing. Lens. What is lens? Some people wrote lenses, some people wrote lens, whatever. Most of what people were looking for is lens accessibility, lens cost, lens quality. Accessibility meaning how easy is it to compile lenses for that specific mount, or do I already have lenses for that specific camera? Lens quality, are the optics sharp? Are they usually pretty good construction wise? And then also the cost. Are these going to be very expensive? Are they going to be too cheap? All very important questions to ask. My go-to is, if you already have lenses, whatever they are, try to stick with those. It just makes it a little bit easier. That way you don't have to buy a new camera and a whole new series of lenses. Also, if you're buying from online sources, a lot of people will sell the camera with a lens as a kit, so you don't really have to worry about that too much. But that's usually just going to be a standard 50mm, which works for most cases. But if you want to have that wider arsenal of lenses, it is something to look into. And also some things like a Contax Yashica mount, those lenses can be pretty expensive, pretty hard to come by. The Topcon lenses are a different mount series, and those are also very hard to come by. It gets complicated towards the end, but lenses are something that you should be cognizant of. And if you want to have a particular look, like if you want a fisheye, if you want a really tight lens, that's something you should look into before jumping into a system, because maybe that camera system doesn't have accessibility to those lenses in particular. Something to be aware of. The next biggest one is condition. That's something I preach a lot on this channel, so seeing that people wrote it in a lot made me feel very happy. I'm very proud of my audience. You should look at the condition of the cameras that you're buying. Make sure they're good, make sure that they work. There's some things you can tell in pictures, like, you know, if there's any kind of like physical markings or anything like that. If the seller doesn't really talk about it, then shoot them a message, be like, hey, what's the deal with that? The last thing you want to do is buy a camera and then have to get it fixed or have to return it. And then it's just like, why are we doing this? The next one is mechanical. Love that. I like mechanical systems a lot. I think that they're much more fun to work on, much more reliable, much nicer in a lot of cases. For that reason, I typically recommend mechanical systems. When I was working at a camera shop, that's what I would go to, is like, just get something mechanical. Whether that's a Spotmatic, whether that's an FTB, a TX, a Minolta SRT, whatever. Get something that works, obviously, but mechanical, there are much fewer variables that can go wrong. So definitely recommend that. Next, price. That's like the first thing I ask people is like, what's your budget? Then it's like, what's your experience level from whatever. Those tend to help narrow down the selection a lot. For a lot of people, myself included, film photography is a hobby. It is an active choice because it just makes no sense. Like, why would I shoot film when digital cameras are so much more accessible and typically really high quality? Film is just kind of like, it just doesn't make any sense, but it's a fun thing. It's something I enjoy. So any way we can kind of make it as approachable for others, that's what I'm looking for. So price is a very good thing to bear in mind. And I think the important thing too is, I know a lot of people want stuff now, but it doesn't hurt to maybe take a minute to save, think about it. Don't bankrupt yourself just because there's a thing you want. Maybe give it a minute, see if there's a different alternative. Reliability. Another thing to keep in mind, I have reviewed a number of cameras on this channel. I've talked about many of them. There are thousands of videos about film cameras on the internet. Look into the film camera you want to get before getting it. See if they're reliable, see how repairable they are, which is another thing that's on here. Make sure that you're not buying into a host of issues. Think about if you were buying a car. Like if you're going to buy a car, do you want to get the thing that has hundreds of thousands of miles on it with known issues? The engine could probably blow up, but hey, it's like a cool looking car. My best friend drives one, so I should get one. No. Get a car that's going to work. Get a car that's going to take you from point A to point B. Get a camera that's going to work. Get a camera that's not going to give you a headache. Just my thoughts there. The next stage of the word bubble is all the same size, and these were like more singular than the other ones, so we'll kind of briefly go through these. The first one is resell value. That's a very important thing to know. Maybe you get a camera, you don't necessarily like it, or you get something and you think, I'll just shoot with this for a bit and then try to flip it. That's a good thing to bear in mind. Speed. This was in reference to shutter speeds. Obviously, having a much wider range of shutter speeds is good. Having faster shutter speeds is great. That means you can shoot at wider apertures during more settings, so that way you can get narrower depth of field, which is great to have that option. It's just options, having those is great. There's repairable and repairability. I probably should have combined those. That's an important thing to keep in mind. There's also reliable and reliability. Was I even awake when I was doing this? I was very concerned with everybody getting their point in here, so I might have goofed this up a little bit, but reliable, reliability, and repairability and repairable, I'll kind of combine all into one, as well as quality. That's all kind of one thing, if you can imagine that. Is the camera going to work? Is it going to be something that people have used to the point where that continues to work and that people are positive about it? And is it going to not break down the moment you look at it the wrong way? We have a couple here that talk about weight and size. I think that's a really interesting thing to be concerned about. I don't think about this all the time, but something like the Demi 17 here, I really like the feel of this. It has a nice heft to it. It's significantly heavier than something like this, the Pentax 17, and it makes me more inspired to shoot with this because I enjoy the heft, the mechanical metal heft to this, as opposed to the lightness of the 17. So some people would prefer this, and some people prefer that this is a little bit bigger than the Demi. I personally don't. And I felt that way about many things, such as the Yashica Electro. I feel like that's a really big camera and it's very hollow, versus something like a Canon QL17, which I feel like ostensibly does the same thing, but in a smaller package. You might prefer something that's lighter, something that feels more hollow. I don't know. There's different things to bear in mind. But if you can figure out a way to see how much the camera weighs and kind of see how that would play in, those are all important factors to know before getting into a camera. Value is a good thing. That kind of goes into the resale discussion there. Corrosion. That's very important to know. Cameras, especially ones that use old mercury batteries, they corrode. And also lens elements can get fungus in them. All of these things can happen. So you want to make sure that if you're getting a camera on eBay, make sure you go through all the pictures, make sure you can see all of the different angles. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to the seller and be like, hey, why can't I see the bottom plate of this? Is there something growing there? Is there something I should be worried about? Am I going to be importing a life form? Like, what's the situation here? I don't want to be one of those mesothelioma guys, so like, help me out. That's all very fair and valid to ask. And again, even if it's like the best deal of all time, it's not going to be a great deal if you end up buying it and then having to return it or having to send it off to get repaired. Don't just spend money because you see a good deal. Make sure you're spending money the right way and getting a good thing. There's a couple more I want to get into before we wrap this up. Easy, that's a very good thing to know. What's your skill level at as a photographer? Have you shot a lot of film? Do you know what you're doing? Do you not? Either way is fine, but just get a camera that's going to kind of be where you're at in your journey. The last thing anybody wants is for you to spend all this money, get a camera, and then just be confused and not feel inspired to use it. The final point that I want to touch on is character. and that is one that I'm really glad somebody typed out. You can shoot a good photo with any camera so long as it works. It really matters what film you have, the lenses you have, and you as the photographer. The camera body doesn't usually matter as much so long as it works. I'm also kind of incorrect when I say that, because it should matter to you or to me. If I'm shooting with a camera that I really like, even if it's not the best camera in the world, if I just like shooting with it, if I feel inspired to shoot with it, if I feel like this camera is like kind of a part of my life, a part of my journey, a part of my travels, I'm going to be more inclined to shoot with it because of those reasons. And I'm probably going to take better photos because I feel excited. I feel this element of joy when I use the camera. The camera has qualities that elicit the best performance out of me, the photographer. And that could mean that it's a Leica. That could mean that it's a Hasselblad. That could mean that it's a Praktica or whatever. It doesn't really matter too much, just so long as it's something that you enjoy using. Before you get into buying film cameras and just looking at what my favorite YouTuber shoots with, what my favorite person on Instagram shoots with, this is what's popular, this is what's expensive, this is the new camera, whatever. All of those flashy headlined things, which are great in concept, might not ultimately deliver an experience to you, the individual user, that you find to be creatively compelling. So find something that inspires you, whether that's just because of the way that it looks, or because the way that the shutter sounds, or the way that it feels in the hand, any of those options, whatever inspires you to use it, pair that with the price, pair that with the quality, pair that with your experience level, and that is how you buy the perfect camera for you. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this word cloud helped. I hope the video helped. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them down below. Be happy to get back to you. Good luck out there. Don't buy a bunch of crap. You don't need it. Find something you like, do some research on it, and then go have fun. Thank you again for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.